The candlelight trembled on the starched white linen, creating dancing shadows that mirrored the frantic beat of my heart. Polished silver gleamed in the muted glow of La Fenice, the kind of lavish Miami restaurant where menus were discreetly price-free, and the waitstaff glided like phantoms, silent, swift, and utterly dismissive of a woman dining alone. I smoothed the fabric of my one good black dress and fought the urge to shrink under the sympathetic gaze of the hostess who had led me to this table for 15 minutes ago. 4 simple words that had sounded like an admission of defeat. "Another glass of Chardonnay while you wait, ma'am?" A waiter materialized at my side, his voice a study in professional detachment. The subtext was clear. No one was coming. "No, thank you." My voice was surprisingly firm. "Just the bill, please." This entire evening was a foolish indulgence, a last-ditch effort to mark my 27th birthday somewhere other than my cramped apartment with its groaning air conditioner and perpetually dripping faucet. The meal had already consumed a third of my weekly earnings. Being a single mother to a 6-year-old didn't allow for extravagances like $18 glasses of wine. As the waiter retreated, I grabbed my phone, feigning interest in non-existent messages. My daughter, Maya, was safe with our neighbor, Mrs. Garcia. Maya deserved so much more than I could offer her. More than a mother juggling 2 jobs just to make rent. More than secondhand clothes and broken promises about gymnastics classes. I had spent my life being overlooked. By the succession of foster parents who saw me as a monthly check. By teachers who never acknowledged my quiet diligence. By Maya's father, who vanished the second the pregnancy test showed 2 pink lines. Here, in a room buzzing with power couples and corporate dinners, I was invisible once more. That's when the atmosphere shifted. The ambient murmur of the restaurant dropped, as if a switch had been flipped. Through the grand windows, I saw a trio of black sedans pull up to the curb, their tinted windows reflecting the city lights like obsidian mirrors. Men in dark suits disembarked first, their eyes sweeping the surroundings with practiced vigilance before one of them opened the rear door of the lead vehicle. The man who stepped out moved as if he owned the very pavement beneath his polished shoes. An aura of absolute command radiated from him, even from a distance. He was tall, with broad shoulders encased in a charcoal suit so perfectly tailored it probably cost more than my car. His dark hair was impeccably styled, and a faint shadow of stubble defined a jawline that looked like it was hewn from marble. He moved with the unhurried, lethal grace of a panther who knows its prey cannot escape. I found myself unable to look away. No one in the restaurant could. A hush fell as he entered, flanked by 2 imposing men who could have been brothers. The maitre d' practically scurried to his side, offering a slight bow of deference I'd only ever seen in movies. "Mr. Moretti, it is an honor. Your private table is prepared." Moretti. The name sparked a vague flicker of recognition, something I might have glimpsed in a news headline about Miami's business elite. I quickly averted my gaze, forcing my attention back to my half-finished risotto, suddenly desperate to be invisible for an entirely new reason. Men like that operated in a different solar system from women like me. Drawing the attention of someone so powerful was a mistake a woman struggling to get by could not afford. I tried to signal my waiter again, a frantic edge to my gesture. But he was gone. His attention, like everyone else's, fixed on the new arrival. I was reaching into my purse to throw cash on the table and flee when I sensed a presence beside me. "The lady will be staying." The voice was deep, laced with a subtle Italian cadence, and carried a tone that permitted no dissent. I froze, my hand still inside my bag, and slowly lifted my head. Up close, he was even more formidable. His eyes, the color of dark, rich coffee, studied me with an intensity that made my skin tingle. His expression held no warmth, only a cool, calculating appraisal that sent my heart hammering against my ribs. "I'm sorry, I think—" The words died in my throat. A corner of his mouth tilted in a smirk that was far too predatory to be a smile. I said. He leaned closer, his voice dropping to a low murmur, the scent of expensive cologne and something wilder, more dangerous, filling my senses. Tonight, you're my wife. Before I could even begin to process his words, he slid into the chair opposite me and gave a slight nod to one of his men. The waiter who had been avoiding me for 10 minutes instantly appeared at our table, his face a mask of terror and eagerness. Mr. Moretti, we are so honored. A bottle of the 98 Sassicaia, he interrupted, his gaze never leaving my face. His eyes were dissecting me, calculating. And we require privacy. The waiter vanished. Around us, the other diners seemed to collectively decide their own meals were suddenly fascinating, their gazes dropping to their plates. I gripped my napkin under the table, my knuckles turning white. There has to be a mistake, I managed, my voice a bare whisper. I don't know you. Lorenzo Moretti, he said, extending a large hand across the table. A heavy platinum signet ring with a crest, a wolf perhaps, adorned his right hand. But you will call me Enzo. And no, Olivia, there is no mistake. I have to go, I whispered, my eyes darting toward the exits, now subtly blocked by his men. Your daughter is with Mrs. Garcia in apartment 4B until 10 o'clock. They are watching an animated movie about princesses and eating cheese pizza, no pepperoni. Delivered this information, which no stranger could possibly know, with a chillingly flat expression. You have plenty of time. Ice traced a path down my spine. How do you... I make it my business to know things. Kara? He withdrew his hand when I failed to take it, the gesture feeling less like a concession and more like a temporary reprieve. Your name is Olivia Quinn, 27 years old as of today, mother to Maya, age 6. You work as a claims processor at Gulfstream Mutual by day and as a cocktail waitress at the Coral Room 4 nights a week. Your rent is a week overdue, you're 4 months behind on your car payments, and Maya needs braces that you cannot afford. Each fact was a physical blow, leaving me feeling exposed and vulnerable. Are you threatening me? For the first time, a flicker of genuine amusement lit his dark eyes. If I were threatening you, Olivia, you would not have to ask. The wine arrived, presented by a sommelier with the reverence of a high priest. Enzo never broke eye contact with me as the bottle was opened and poured. Once we were alone again, he raised his glass. To a new chapter, he said, his voice a quiet command. I didn't touch my glass. What do you want from me? For this evening, I want you to drink your wine, finish your dinner, and pretend we are celebrating our first wedding anniversary. His gaze flickered for a fraction of a second toward the restaurant's entrance. The man who just entered, do not look, believes I am a devoted family man. It is in our mutual interest for him to maintain that belief. Against all reason, a spark of curiosity ignited within me. Why? Because, Olivia Quinn, he said my name as if tasting it. The difference between us walking out of this restaurant alive and being carried out may hinge on how convincingly you can play the part of my adoring wife. The words should have sent me screaming for the door. But the calm certainty in his tone, devoid of any melodrama, chilled me in a different way. He wasn't being dramatic. He was stating a fact. I can't. You can. And you will. He reached across the table and captured my hand. His skin was warm, his grip surprisingly gentle yet utterly inescapable. Smile at me as if you love me, cara mia. Our lives are depending on it. Something in his eyes, a brief flash of something that looked almost like vulnerability, made me pause. His thumb stroked across my knuckles, a gesture so unexpectedly intimate that a jolt of heat shot up my arm. I found myself smiling, my body reacting to his touch before my mind could object. There she is, he murmured, a note of satisfaction in his voice. My beautiful wife. This is insane, I whispered through the smile, trying to keep my expression placid while panic clawed at my insides. I don't even know your full name. Lorenzo Antonio Moretti. His thumb continued its mesmerizing path across my skin. Head of the Moretti family. And for tonight, your husband of 1 year. The Moretti family. Suddenly, fragmented news reports clicked into place, allegations of racketeering that never seemed to stick. Whispers of union disputes that mysteriously resolved overnight. Rumors of organized crime that everyone in Miami knew about, but no one spoke of aloud. My smile faltered. Careful, Olivia. His grip tightened infinitesimally. Some truths, once spoken, cannot be unsaid. I swallowed hard. You're an importer, I amended, the lie feeling like ash in my mouth. His smile was sharp enough to draw blood. Very good. A man approached our table then, dressed in an expensive suit that lacked Enzo's refined elegance. There was a coarseness about him, from his too loud laugh to the overly familiar way he clapped Enzo on the shoulder. Moretti, you sly bastard, holding out on me. The man's eyes raked over me with a possessive appraisal that made my skin crawl. Never mentioned you had a wife. Enzo's expression remained pleasant, but a deadly light flickered in his eyes. Mr. Vescovi, I don't believe I invited you to join us. Come on, we're practically partners. Vescovi pulled up a chair without an invitation, his knee brushing against mine beneath the table. I flinched. Aren't you going to introduce me to the lovely Signora? Before I could think, Enzo's hand recaptured mine, his thumb stroking possessively over my bare ring finger, which suddenly felt glaringly empty. My wife values her privacy, Enzo said smoothly, as do I. Can't she speak for herself? Vescovi leered. What's your name, beautiful? I felt Enzo tense beside me, the coiled energy of a predator about to strike. In that moment, instinct took over. It wasn't self-preservation, but a bizarre impulse to protect this dangerous man from the violence that was about to erupt. Alessandra, I said, my voice dropping to a husky tone as I leaned into Enzo's side. But only my husband calls me that. A dark proprietary fire flashed in Enzo's eyes as he glanced down at me. His arm slid around my waist, pulling me closer until I was nearly in his lap. You see, Vescovi, he said, his gaze fixed on me. My wife is shy around strangers. Shy, Vescovi snorted. Women who look like that are never shy. Enzo's movement was so fast I barely saw it. 1 second he was seated, the next his hand was clamped around Vescovi's wrist, twisting it at an angle that drained the color from the other man's face. Choose your next words with extreme caution, Enzo said, his voice a soft, terrifying whisper. You are speaking of my wife. I should have been petrified. Instead, a strange molten heat pooled in my stomach at the raw possession in his voice. No one had ever defended me. No one had ever claimed me with such absolute authority. No offense. No offense meant, Vescovi gasped, sweat beading on his brow. Beautiful woman. You're a lucky man. Enzo released him with a dismissive flick. Indeed. Now, if you'll excuse us, we're celebrating our anniversary. Vescovi retreated, cradling his wrist and his bruised ego. When he was gone, Enzo's arm remained around me, his warmth seeping through the thin material of my dress. You did well, he murmured, his breath warm against my ear, sending a shiver down my spine. But our night is far from over. I should have pulled away, should have run as far and as fast as I could. Instead, I found myself leaning into his touch, drawn by a magnetic force I couldn't begin to understand. What happens now? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. His eyes darkened as they met mine. Now, we ensure Vescovi believes we are exactly what we seem, a couple deeply, passionately in love. His finger traced the line of my jaw, a touch as light as a butterfly's wing. "Can you do that for me, Olivia?" The way he said my name, like a secret and a sin, made it impossible to think. "I, or perhaps," he continued, his gaze dropping to my lips, "you would prefer I take you home to your daughter. You could walk away from this, return to your life, and forget this night ever occurred." It was the first genuine choice he had offered me, and I sensed it might be the last. I should have taken it. I should have fled back to my safe, predictable life of overdue notices and lonely nights. Instead, I heard myself say, "I can do it." A flicker of triumph lit his eyes. "One night as my wife," he said, his finger still tracing my jawline. "Do precisely as I say, and by tomorrow, your financial troubles will be a distant memory." Pride flared hot in my chest. "I'm not for sale." "No," he agreed, surprising me. "You are not. Consider it compensation for your performance." His thumb brushed against my lower lip, a gesture so intimate I forgot how to breathe. "And I always settle my debts." The intensity in his gaze made me feel like both the hunter and the hunted. "Why me?" I whispered. "You could have had anyone." "Not just anyone," he corrected. "I needed someone unexpected. Someone Vescovi could not have researched. Someone." His eyes roamed my face with a clinical assessment that still felt like a caress. Beautiful enough to be believable, but entirely disconnected from my world. So I was just convenient. Something shifted in his expression, a hint of amusement or something much darker. "Let's discover just how convenient this arrangement can be." He rose in a single fluid motion, extending his hand. This time, I took it. He pulled me to my feet as the check was discreetly handled with a flash of a black credit card. Then we were moving through the restaurant, his hand resting firmly at the small of my back, guiding me toward the waiting sedans. The reality of my situation hit me as we reached the door. "Wait, my daughter. My driver will collect Maya if we are delayed past 10, he said smoothly. "Mrs. Garcia has already been generously compensated for her time." The casual way he had woven himself into the fabric of my life, making decisions about my child, sent a fresh wave of fear through me. "I can't let a stranger take my daughter." He paused at the entrance, turning to face me. "Nothing will happen to Maya," he said, his voice softer than I'd heard it before. "You have my word." The word of a man forcing me to be his wife? His smile was sharp. The word of a man who protects what is his. He tucked a stray strand of hair behind my ear, the gesture disarmingly tender. "And tonight, cara mia, you are mine." The humid Miami air was a shock to my system, a stark contrast to the heat radiating from Enzo's hand at my back. His bodyguards formed a silent perimeter around us. One of them opened the door to the lead sedan, and Enzo guided me inside with a gentle pressure that felt like an unbreakable command. The interior was a cocoon of supple black leather and understated luxury. Enzo slid in beside me, his thigh brushing against mine in a space that suddenly felt far too intimate. The door closed with a solid final-sounding thud. "Where are we going?" I asked, my voice trembling slightly as the car pulled smoothly away from the curb. Enzo studied me for a long moment, his face unreadable in the dim light. "The Vescovi situation has become more complicated than I anticipated. We're going to my home." "Your home?" "But I have to get back to Maya." "As I said, arrangements have been made." His tone was absolute. Seeing the panic in my eyes, he softened it slightly. "Your daughter will be brought to us if necessary. If our business concludes quickly, she will be returned to your apartment." "Our business?" The phrase hung between us, thick with unspoken meaning. "What exactly is this situation with Vescovi?" Enzo's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "Marco Vescovi believes he can force a partnership with my family. Tonight was intended as a negotiation. And I was the leverage? The distraction? His lips curved into that dangerous half smile. You were the variable he did not account for. Vescovi has been digging into my personal life for weeks, searching for a weakness. He believes that discovering my secret wife gives him an advantage. Does it? I asked, acutely aware of the perilous game I was now a part of. Enzo's hand came to rest on my knee, its weight both a comfort and a threat. On the contrary, Kara, you have given me the advantage. The city lights streaked past the tinted windows as we drove, toward the opulent waterfront estates of Star Island, a place I'd only ever seen in magazines. We turned onto a private road, and towering iron gates swung open silently as we approached. The house, a mansion really, emerged from the darkness, a sprawling modern marvel of glass and stone perched on the edge of Biscayne Bay. More security personnel moved discreetly through the manicured grounds, their presence illuminated by strategic landscape lighting. "Welcome home," Enzo murmured as the car stopped. The emphasis on the word home sent a shiver down my spine. Inside the mansion was an exercise in minimalist opulence, soaring ceilings, clean lines, and museum-quality art that was probably worth more than my entire life's earnings. A staff member appeared without a sound, took Enzo's jacket, and vanished. "A drink?" Enzo moved toward a bar cart laden with crystal decanters. "I need to understand what is happening," I said, rooted to the spot by the entryway. "What does Vescovi want? Why did you need a fake wife? And how long does this charade last?" Enzo poured 2 glasses of amber liquid, ignoring my unspoken refusal. "Vescovi controls certain shipping channels I need for my import businesses. He recently uncovered a discrepancy in my accounts. One of my lieutenants was skimming, and he thinks this gives him the power to demand a full partnership. And that's bad because Marco Vescovi is a rabid animal who would poison everything my family has built over generations." His voice was calm, but a dangerous glint appeared in his eyes. "He deals in human trafficking, among other vile enterprises I will not tolerate in my city." I wrapped my arms around myself, a sudden chill seeping into my bones. "So you're the lesser of 2 evils?" In a heartbeat, he was in front of me, moving with that predatory speed that made my pulse race. He lifted my chin with one finger, forcing my gaze to meet his. "I am saying, Olivia, that there are lines even men like me do not cross." His eyes searched mine. "And tonight, you helped me reinforce one of those lines." "How?" I whispered, trapped by the intensity of his stare. "Vescovi now believes I have a wife I have kept hidden for her own protection. He will hesitate before making a direct move against me now." His thumb traced my lower lip, sending a jolt of electricity through me. He understands the rules of our world. Families are off limits. "I'm not your family," I reminded him, my voice embarrassingly breathless. "Details," he murmured, his accent deepening. His hand cupped my cheek, and I found myself leaning into his touch instinctively. The vibration of his phone in his pocket broke the spell. Enzo stepped back, his expression darkening as he checked the screen. "Excuse me," he said, moving toward a room that looked like an office. "Make yourself comfortable. This shouldn't take long." When he was gone, I released a breath I hadn't known I was holding. My heart pounded as I tried to process the insanity of my situation. I was in a mafia boss's mansion, pretending to be his wife to thwart a rival criminal. I should call the police. I should run. I pulled out my phone, relieved to see I had a signal. My thumb hovered over the emergency call icon, but I hesitated. What would I even say? "Help. I'm being held captive by a devastatingly handsome crime lord who is offering to solve all my financial problems if I play his wife for a night." Besides, Enzo knew where Maya was. He knew everything. Instead, I texted Mrs. Garcia. "How is Maya?" The reply came almost instantly. Sleeping like a little angel. Your husband's friend dropped off her favorite stuffed bunny and some extra money for me to watch her overnight if you're delayed. He's such a gentleman. Why didn't you tell me you got married? I stared at the screen. Husband? Stuffed bunny? Maya's bunny had been lost during our last move, and she'd been inconsolable. How could Enzo possibly know about it? Before I could puzzle it out, a woman's voice startled me. So, you're the wife. I spun around to see a breathtaking woman leaning in the doorway. She was tall and slender, with raven hair and eyes that held the same color and intensity as Enzo's. She wore a designer dress that made mine look like a thrift store find. Relax, she said, a brilliant smile revealing perfect teeth. I'm Isabella, Enzo's sister. She glided into the room, her eyes assessing me with cool precision. I must admit, you're not what I pictured when he mentioned he'd found a wife. It's not, we're not, I stammered, unsure of how much she knew. Real? Her laugh was sharp and musical. Of course it's not. My brother doesn't do relationships. He brokers deals. She circled me slowly. The question is, what kind of deal do you believe this is? My face burned. It's just for tonight. To mislead someone named Vescovi. Isabella stopped in front of me, tapping a perfectly manicured nail against her chin. Interesting. And he brought you here, to our home. She leaned closer, her expensive perfumes surrounding me. Enzo never brings his arrangements home. I'm not his arrangement, I protested, though the words sounded feeble even to me. No? Her smile was all-knowing. Then why are you staring at his office door as if you're waiting for him to return? Why haven't you fled? Because of Maya. Because I couldn't. And because, despite every rational thought, a traitorous part of me was captivated by Lorenzo Moretti and the way he looked at me as if I was something precious, not something invisible. Isabella. Enzo's voice sliced through the room. I don't remember inviting you this evening. His sister straightened, completely unfazed by his cold tone. I was nearby. I thought I should meet the mystery woman who has your entire security team buzzing. She kissed his cheek, ignoring his rigid posture. She's rather plain, but pretty enough, I suppose. I flinched at the casual cruelty. Enzo's eyes narrowed. Olivia is my guest, he said, his voice deceptively soft. You will treat her with respect. Isabella raised an eyebrow, a silent conversation passing between them. Guest? Is that what we're calling it? She turned back to me with a predatory smile. Enjoy your stay, Olivia. My brother can be exceedingly hospitable when he chooses. With that parting shot, she swept from the room. I apologize for my sister, Enzo said, moving to my side. Isabella can be protective. She seemed more territorial, I muttered. To my surprise, Enzo chuckled, a genuine sound that transformed his stern features into something dangerously handsome. An astute observation. My sister has managed my household since our parents passed. She is not accustomed to surprises. His expression sobered. Like wives. The unspoken word real hung between us. The situation with Vescovi is escalating, he continued, gesturing for me to join him on a sleek leather sofa. He's already making inquiries about you. My men intercepted 2 of his people trying to follow us from the restaurant. Fear tightened its grip on my throat. What does that mean for me? For Maya? Enzo's face hardened. It means your safety is now my responsibility. He poured me a glass of water from a crystal carafe. Vescovi is desperate, which makes him reckless. Until I neutralize him, you and your daughter require protection. Protection? You mean bodyguards? The absurdity of it all was overwhelming. Yesterday, my biggest problem was a looming rent payment. Now a mafia boss was offering me protection from his enemies. To begin, he said, studying me with those piercing eyes, the safest place for you is here. Here? I nearly choked on my water. I can't just move in with you. I have a job. Maya has school. All of which can be managed. He spoke as if relocating my entire life was as simple as ordering takeout. Your position at Gulfstream Mutual is unstable given the recent downsizing. As for Maya's education, there are several excellent private schools nearby. Once again, I was floored by the depth of his knowledge. How do you know all of this? An unreadable emotion crossed his face. Your application for assistance with the Children's Health Foundation 3 weeks ago. You listed your employment concerns. You saw my application? How? I own the foundation, he said simply. Your file came across my desk. The pieces clicked into place. So, that night at the restaurant, you knew who I was. His expression remained impassive, but I saw a flicker of something like discomfort in his eyes. Yes. You planned all of this. Anger, hot and sharp, surged through me. You used me as a prop in your power games. Not entirely, he said, his jaw tightening. Vescovi's presence was a coincidence. But yes, I had intended to approach you. Why? The word was sharp. What could you possibly want from me? Enzo rose and walked to the wall of windows overlooking the dark, shimmering bay. For a long moment he stood with his back to me, his broad shoulders tense. Your file included a photograph, he said finally, his voice lower, rougher. When I saw it, I recognized you. That's impossible. We've never met. He turned, his face a mask of stone. Not you, but your resemblance to someone I used to know is uncanny. A chill slithered down my spine. Who? My wife, he said. My real wife, Elena. The room seemed to tilt. You're married? A muscle worked in his jaw. I was. She died 6 years ago. The timeline struck me with the force of a physical blow. 6 years ago. When Maya was born, while I was struggling through a lonely pregnancy, this man was losing his wife. I'm sorry, I said, the words feeling utterly inadequate. But that doesn't explain. The anniversary of her death was last week. He cut in, his voice tight with controlled emotion. Vescovi learned of it and has been watching me, searching for a sign of weakness. Appearing with a new wife, one who looks so much like Elena, sends a message that I am not vulnerable. So, I'm just a stand-in. A ghost. The idea was both chilling and strangely disappointing. Enzo moved toward me, his steps silent and predatory, stopping so close I had to crane my neck to look at him. You are nothing like her, he said softly, his gaze roaming my features. Except for your face. Elena was gentle, sheltered, compliant. You, he said, have a fire in your eyes, Olivia Quinn, even when you are terrified. His hand rose to my cheek. I should have pulled away, disgusted by his manipulation, by the violence that underpinned his life. Instead, I stood frozen, caught in the intensity of his gaze. What happens now? I whispered. Now, he said, his thumb brushing my lower lip. We make our arrangement more permanent, at least until Vescovi is no longer a problem. Define permanent. You and Maya will live here, under my protection. You will maintain the public appearance of being my wife. In return, I will secure your finances, your daughter's future, and your safety. And in private? The question slipped out before I could stop it. A dangerous light kindled in his eyes. In private, cara mia, we will negotiate our own terms. My pulse hammered. This is madness. I don't know you. You're a criminal. And yet, you haven't run, he observed, his words hanging between us. You haven't called the police. You are still here, listening to my offer. He was right, and that scared me more than anything. What kind of mother was I, even considering this? Maya is all that matters, I said, my voice firming. I will not expose her to your world. Maya would want for nothing, he countered. She would be protected, educated, and cared for as if she were my own. My home has a separate wing. You would have your own space. Until when? What's the endgame, Enzo? He stepped back, giving me space to breathe. Until Vescovi is dealt with. 3 months, maybe 4. And then? We just go back to our old lives? An unreadable expression crossed his face. If that is what you choose. Before I could respond, his phone vibrated again. This time, his face darkened as he read the message. What is it? Vescovi's men, he said tersely. They've been seen near your apartment building. Fear seized my throat. Maya is safe, he assured me. My people intercepted them. But this changes things. How? His expression was grim. They know where you live. Vescovi now sees you as my weakness. That makes you and Maya targets. He ran a hand through his perfect hair, the first sign of genuine agitation I'd seen. I've already sent men to collect her and Mrs. Garcia. They are being brought here now. Without my permission? Anger flared. You can't just take my child. Would you prefer I left her there for Vescovi's men to find? His voice was sharp, but underscored by real concern. This is not a game, Olivia. These men use children as leverage. The brutal reality crashed down on me. My quiet, difficult life had been shattered. My daughter was in danger because of a man I'd just met. Because I looked like his dead wife. This is your fault, I whispered, tears stinging my eyes. You dragged us into this. Something like guilt flashed across his face before it hardened once more. Yes, he admitted. And now I will fix it. But I need you to work with me. Do I have a choice? He studied me for a long moment. There is always a choice, Kara. But some choices are better than others. A buzzer sounded from a panel on the wall. They're here. My heart leaped into my throat. I followed him to the grand entrance hall as the massive doors swung open. One of Enzo's men stood there carrying a sleeping Maya, bundled in her favorite pink blanket. Mrs. Garcia followed, looking remarkably composed. Olivia, dear, she said when she saw me. Your husband's men were so polite, and this house, it's a palace. I stood frozen as Maya stirred. Her eyes fluttered open, confused, until she saw me. Mommy? Her small voice broke something inside me. I rushed forward, taking her into my arms, holding her tight and breathing in her familiar scent of shampoo and childhood. It's okay, baby, I murmured into her hair. Mommy's here. Where are we? She asked, rubbing her eyes and looking around the cavernous hall. Before I could answer, Enzo stepped forward, his entire demeanor shifting. The dangerous predator was gone, replaced by a gentle, commanding presence. Hello, Maya, he said, his voice warmer than I'd ever heard it. My name is Enzo. You and your mother will be staying at my house for a little while. Maya studied him with a child's unfiltered curiosity. Is this a castle? A genuine smile transformed Enzo's severe features. Not exactly, but there is a swimming pool and a room filled with books and toys that I think you might like. Maya's eyes widened. A pool inside? And a hedge maze in the garden? He added, as if offering a private amusement park was the most normal thing in the world. Perhaps tomorrow, if your mother agrees, you can explore it. Maya turned to me, excitement chasing away her confusion. Can we stay, Mommy, please? Over her head, Enzo's dark eyes met mine. They were intense, knowing, and utterly victorious. He knew he had already won. With a few simple words, he had captured my daughter as completely as he had ensnared me. Yes, sweetheart, I heard myself say, the words sealing our fate. We're going to stay for a little while. Morning sunlight streamed through vast windows, illuminating a bedroom larger than my entire apartment. I woke in a haze of confusion, my hands clutching unfamiliar, impossibly soft sheets. For a disorienting second, I had no idea where I was. Then the previous night's events came rushing back. Enzo, Vescovi, the forced performance, Maya's midnight relocation. I shot upright, my chest tight with panic. Maya, your daughter is enjoying breakfast on the garden terrace, ma'am. A calm, feminine voice answered from the doorway. Mr. Moretti believed you would appreciate the rest. A woman in a crisp, professional uniform stood there, her posture perfect. Who are you? I asked, pulling the silk sheets higher. My name is Sophia. I have been assigned as your personal assistant during your stay. Her expression was a mask of neutrality, revealing nothing of what she knew about my strange arrangement with her employer. Where are my clothes? I glanced down at the silk nightgown I was wearing, which was definitely not mine. Your belongings are being brought from your apartment, Sophia replied, moving to open a set of double doors that revealed a massive walk-in closet. In the interim, Mr. Moretti had these delivered. I slid out of bed and followed her, stopping dead in the doorway. The closet was filled with clothes, all in my size. Dresses, slacks, blouses, shoes, all bearing designer labels I only recognized from magazines. The price tag still attached made my head spin. These are... for me? Yes, ma'am. And similar arrangements were made for Maya. Sophia gestured to a section of smaller garments. Mr. Moretti was very specific with his choices. The intimacy of it, this man selecting clothes for me and my daughter, knowing our sizes, anticipating our needs, was both deeply invasive and strangely considerate. I can't accept all this, I said, though the words felt hollow. Sophia's professional mask softened slightly. If I may be candid, ma'am, she said, and I nodded. In my 10 years with the Moretti family, I have never seen Mr. Moretti take such a direct, personal interest in a guest's comfort. Whatever your arrangement, these are not merely transactional gestures. Before I could process that unsettling piece of information, a soft knock sounded at the door. Sophia answered it, exchanging a few quiet words before turning back to me. Mr. Moretti requests your presence for breakfast when you are ready. Shall I help you choose something? 20 minutes later, dressed in a simple but exquisitely made sundress that fit perfectly, I followed Sophia through the sprawling mansion. Every room was a testament to immense wealth, tempered by a stark masculine aesthetic. Dark woods, cool stone, and brushed steel were punctuated by vibrant pieces of modern art. We stepped out onto a stone terrace overlooking the bay, the water glittering under the morning sun. At the edge of an immaculate garden stood a pavilion, and there, like a scene from a life that wasn't mine, sat Enzo and Maya. My daughter was perched on a chair piled high with cushions, chattering animatedly while Enzo listened with a focused attention I had rarely seen adults give to children. It wasn't the idyllic setting or the platters of food that struck me. It was how completely at ease Maya seemed, as if having breakfast with a powerful crime lord was the most natural thing in the world. "Mommy?" She saw me and waved, her face beaming. "Enzo has blueberry pancakes and a giant pool, and he said I can have swimming lessons." I approached the table, acutely aware of Enzo rising to his feet as I drew near. In the bright morning light, dressed in a casual linen shirt with the sleeves rolled up to his forearms, he looked less like a fearsome mafia boss and more like the legitimate businessman he claimed to be. "Good morning, Akara," he said, pulling out a chair for me. The endearment sounded so natural it was easy to forget it was part of an act. "Did you sleep well?" "As well as could be expected," I answered, keeping my voice low, mindful of Maya's presence. Enzo's eyes, a warm amber in the sunlight instead of the cold coffee of the night before, studied my face. "The circumstances will improve," he promised, his voice for my ears. "Alone. You have my word." A server appeared silently with a cup of coffee, already prepared with cream and 1 sugar. exactly how I liked it. Another small, unsettling reminder of how thoroughly he had researched me. Maya was just telling me about her desire to swim, he continued, resuming his seat. I have arranged for an instructor to come this afternoon, if that is acceptable to you. The polite fiction of asking my permission while informing me the arrangements were already made was not lost on me. That's very generous, I said carefully. But we can't impose. It is no imposition, he cut in smoothly. The pool is rarely used. It would be my pleasure to see it enjoyed. Maya bounced in her seat. Please, Mommy, I've always wanted lessons. I knew she had. I remembered the local community center program I couldn't afford, and the look of disappointment in her eyes when I'd told her we'd have to wait. All right, I conceded, and was rewarded with Maya's brilliant smile. But we need to discuss expectations, I added, looking pointedly at Enzo. About how long we are staying, and what this all entails. After breakfast, he agreed, his gaze shifting to Maya. Perhaps your daughter would enjoy exploring the garden with Sophia while we talk. Maya, already halfway through a mountain of pancakes, looked up. Is there really a maze? Enzo nodded, his expression softening. And a fountain in the middle with koi fish you can feed. That was all the convincing she needed. As soon as she finished eating, Sophia materialized to lead her on the garden adventure, armed with a small bag of fish food. When we were alone, the silence stretched between us. Enzo refilled my coffee cup, the simple domestic gesture clashing with the dangerous reality of our situation. You have questions, he stated. About 1,000,000, I replied, starting with how long this charade is supposed to last. Until Vescovi is neutralized, he said, the same answer as before. My people are working to contain him, but these matters require a delicate touch. And in the meantime, what am I supposed to do? Play house? Pretend to be a replacement for your dead wife? A muscle tightened in his jaw. You are not a replacement, he said, his voice turning cold. You are under my protection because my actions put you in danger. The role of wife is simply the most effective cover. A cover for what? Enzo stood and walked to the edge of the pavilion, his back to me. 6 years ago, my wife was killed, he said abruptly. Not by a rival, by a drunk driver. A random, meaningless death. I stayed silent, sensing there was more to the story. What very few people know, he continued, is that she was pregnant, 7 months along, with a daughter. The breath caught in my throat. I'm so sorry, I whispered. He turned, his face like stone. Vescovi learned of this. On the anniversary of their deaths, he approached me with photographs of their gravestones, remarking how tragic it would be for a man to lose his family twice. His hands clenched into fists. It was a threat. The sheer cruelty of it made me sick. That's monstrous. That is how Vescovi does business, Enzo said flatly, a world I have been trying to move beyond. And where do I fit in? Just because I look like her? He returned to the table, his movements tense. Initially, yes. Your resemblance to Elena was an opportunity to show Vescovi that I had moved on, that his knowledge of my past held no power. But now that he has seen you, identified you, the situation has changed. Into what? Enzo's gaze was sharp, analytical. Into something more complicated. Vescovi believes you are important to me. That makes you both a target and an asset. An asset? I repeated, the word tasting like poison. Something flickered across his face. Frustration, or something else I couldn't name. What you are to me, Olivia, is not so easily defined. Before I could press him, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, a slight frown creasing his brow. My security team has finished at your apartment, he said. They are packing your essential belongings. They also found surveillance devices in your living room and bedroom. Horror washed over me. Cameras? In my home? Audio only, he said, though it did little to quell my revulsion. Installed within the last 48 hours? Vescovi's work. Nausea churned in my stomach at the thought of strangers listening to my private life, to my bedtime stories with Maya. How did they get in? Your building's security is lacking. The devices had been removed, but the violation remained. This confirms it. You cannot go back there. The finality of my situation crashed down on me. My home, my job, my life, all gone, all compromised because of Lorenzo Moretti. What about my work? I have bills, responsibilities. Your financial obligations have been taken care of, he said matter-of-factly. Your position at Gulfstream was already ending. As for the Coral Room, I arranged an indefinite leave of absence for you. Family emergency. Anger flared. You had no right. You can't just take over my life. Without what? He interrupted, his voice soft but unyielding. Without your permission? The moment Vescovi saw you at my table, Olivia, a chain of events was set in motion. I am simply trying to ensure you and Maya are not crushed by the consequences. His brutal honesty left me speechless. When I found my voice, it was small. So, what now? I just live here, pretending to be your wife? For now, yes. His expression softened. Is that so terrible, Lakara? Your daughter is safe, happy, and receiving opportunities you fought to give her. You have financial security. You have protection. It's a gilded cage, I said quietly. It's still a cage. Then think of it as a temporary sanctuary, he countered. One that requires a certain performance in public. What kind of performance? A darkness entered his eyes. Nothing you are not comfortable with. Holding my hand. An occasional display of affection. The appearance of a devoted couple. The thought of Enzo's touch, even as part of an act, sent a forbidden warmth through me. And what do you get from this, besides sending a message to Vescovi? He studied me for a long moment. Peace of mind, he finally said, knowing I have protected the innocent people I endangered. There was more to it. I could feel it in the way he looked at me, in the careful distance he maintained. But before I could ask, a shout from the garden drew our attention. Maya came running toward us, her face flushed with excitement, Sophia trailing behind her. Mommy, there are giant turtles in the fountain, she cried, breathless. Can I keep one? Enzo laughed, a real, unguarded sound that made him look younger, less severe. The turtles live in the fountain, Piccola, but you can visit them anytime you like. Maya turned her wide, pleading eyes on him. Promise? Every day? Every day, he confirmed with the gravity of a man sealing a multi-million-dollar deal. We can even give them names. My daughter beamed at him with a trust that made my heart ache. How quickly she had accepted this stranger. How easily she had adapted. Children were resilient, but I worried what would happen when this temporary sanctuary came to an end. Sophia will show you to your rooms in the East Wing, Enzo said, rising from the table. They have been prepared for a longer stay. If you need anything, you only have to ask. The East Wing? I asked. Where will you be? A flicker of amusement crossed his face. The master suite is in the West Wing. We may be playing at marriage, Olivia, but I would not presume to share your space. He paused, then added with deliberate weight. Unless I am invited. Heat rushed to my cheeks. That won't be necessary. His smile was knowing and deeply unsettling. As you wish. For the next 3 days, Enzo kept a respectful distance. I saw him occasionally, on calls in his office, walking the grounds on his phone, but he seemed to be giving Maya and me space to acclimate. Predictably, Maya was in paradise. Between swimming lessons from a woman who, Enzo casually mentioned, was a former Olympic medalist, the hedge maze, the home theater, and Sophia's endless patience, my daughter had never been happier. I, on the other hand, grew more unsettled each day, not from fear, but from the terrifying ease with which I was adapting to this life of protected luxury. Each morning, I woke determined to remember it was all an illusion. By each evening, watching Maya laugh freely, my resolve crumbled. On the fourth night, I tucked Maya into her new bed, an elaborate canopy bed that had simply appeared one afternoon. "Mommy," she murmured sleepily, "is Enzo going to be my new daddy?" The question was a punch to the gut. "What?" "No, sweetheart. Why would you say that?" She yawned, burrowing under the covers. "Because we live in his house, and he looks at you like the prince looks at the mermaid." "That's just a movie, baby," I said, smoothing her hair. "Real life is different." "But we're staying here, right?" "I like it here." The simple joy in her voice tightened my throat. "For now, yes. But it's not permanent." "Why?" Her brow furrowed. "Don't you like Enzo?" How could I explain to a 6-year-old that the man who had given her a fantasy life was a criminal who had put us in danger? That this was all a game of pretend? "It's complicated, Maya. Grown-up complicated." She seemed to accept this, her eyes drifting shut. "He makes you smile," she mumbled, already half asleep. "You didn't smile much at our old home." Her words, so simple and so devastatingly true, followed me out of the room. Had I been so worn down by the struggle that I'd forgotten how to be happy? Lost in thought, I almost collided with Enzo in the hallway. He caught my shoulders to steady me, his touch sending a familiar jolt of heat through my body. "Forgive me," he said, releasing me as soon as I tensed. I was coming to say goodnight to Maya. The domesticity of it was jarring. "You do that?" "When I am invited," he replied, a guarded look in his eyes. She asked if I would check for monsters under her bed. Apparently, I am particularly effective against them. I couldn't help but smile at the image of this formidable man on his hands and knees, searching for imaginary creatures. "She's already asleep." A flicker of disappointment crossed his face before he masked it. Another time. "She asked if you were going to be her new father," I blurted out, needing him to understand the dangerous territory we were in. "This is confusing for her." Something complex moved behind his eyes. "And what did you tell her?" "The truth. That it's temporary." "Is it?" The question hung between us, heavy with unspoken possibilities. "Of course it is," I said, but the words lacked conviction. "Once Vescovi is dealt with, we'll go back to our lives." Enzo stepped closer, his presence making it hard to breathe. "And what if I offered you a different life?" "What life?" I whispered. "Stay," he said simply. "Not as a pretense, not for protection, not because you look like someone else. Stay because Maya is thriving, because you deserve to feel safe." His hand rose, brushing a strand of hair from my cheek. "And because there is something between us that we both know is real." My heart hammered against my ribs. "You don't know me." "I know enough," he countered. "I know you have sacrificed everything for your daughter. I know you worked 2 jobs without a single complaint. I know you applied for dental aid for Maya, but not for yourself, despite the pain you're in from a broken molar." I flinched. How could he know that? "I know," he continued, his voice dropping, "that you tremble when I am near you, and it is not only from fear." Heat bloomed in my cheeks. "That's presumptuous." "Is it?" His fingers traced my jawline, a touch so light it sent shivers through me. "Tell me you feel nothing, Olivia, and I will never touch you again." I should have stepped away. Instead, I found myself leaning into his touch, my body betraying me. "This is a mistake," I whispered, my eyes falling to his lips. "Perhaps," he murmured, his thumb brushing my mouth. "But some mistakes are worth making." When he kissed me, it was gentle at first, a question rather than a demand. It was nothing like I had imagined. There was no domination, only a restrained hunger that made my knees go weak. My hand slid up his chest to his shoulders, and his arms wrapped around my waist, pulling me tight as the kiss deepened, becoming something raw and desperate. When we finally broke apart, breathless, reality came rushing back. I stumbled back, my fingers touching my lips. "I can't do this," I said, my voice shaky. "This isn't real." "That felt very real to me, cara mia," he said, his eyes darker than I had ever seen them. "You're a criminal," I reminded him, the words sounding weak. "Your world is dangerous. A temporary arrangement is one thing, but anything more would put Maya in danger." Pain flashed across his face. "You think I would ever let harm come to her? To you?" "Intentions don't matter," I countered. "You said yourself that Vescovi targeted me because he thought I was important to you. Imagine if I actually was." Enzo's jaw tightened. "So you would deny this because of who I am?" "Because of what your life would mean for my daughter," I corrected. "She deserves a normal, safe life. And you believe you can give her that in an apartment with a broken lock and drug dealers in the hallway?" His voice was sharp with frustration. "You think your constant struggle is safer than what I can offer?" The truth of his words stung. "At least there, I'm in control." "Are you?" His laugh was harsh. "Control is an illusion, Olivia. One medical bill, one layoff, one eviction notice from disaster. With me, you would never have that fear again." "And at what cost?" I demanded. "My freedom? My independence?" Enzo stepped closer again, his expression intense. "I am not asking you to surrender anything. I am offering you a choice. Continue to fight a battle you are losing, or accept that sometimes strength means allowing yourself to be protected." His words haunted me as I lay awake that night. Sometimes strength means allowing yourself to be protected. Part of me wanted to dismiss it as manipulation, but there had been a raw honesty in his eyes, a vulnerability that contradicted his dangerous reputation. And then, there was the kiss. The memory of it was a brand on my lips, impossible to ignore. I had been kissed before, but nothing had prepared me for the consuming fire of Enzo's touch, the controlled power that promised both tenderness and possession. This attraction was dangerous. I had Maya to think about, her safety, her future. Getting involved with Enzo would only complicate an already impossible situation, yet Maya's words echoed in my mind. "You didn't smile much at our old home." Had I been so ground down by the fight for survival that I had forgotten how to live? Sleep finally came in the pre-dawn hours, filled with dreams of Enzo's dark eyes and gentle hands. Morning brought no clarity, only a renewed determination to rebuild the boundaries I had let him shatter. I steeled myself for an awkward breakfast, but Enzo was gone. "Mr. Moretti had business in the city," Sophia informed me. "He asked me to tell you he will return this evening and hopes you and Maya will join him for dinner." The reprieve should have been a relief, but all I felt was a strange pang of disappointment. I spent the day with Maya, watching her splash in the pool during her lesson, marveling at her confidence. I worried about what would happen when this was all over. How could I take her back to our cramped apartment after this? How could I explain that the man who checked for monsters and named turtles with her would no longer be in our lives? After lunch, while Maya napped, I wandered through the silent mansion. In a small sitting room, I found photographs. Enzo with an older couple who had his eyes. A younger Enzo with a grinning Isabella in graduation gowns. But there were no pictures of Elena, no trace of the wife whose face had started this all. I was studying a chessboard left mid-game when a voice startled me. "He always opens with the same move." I turned to find Isabella leaning in the doorway, her expression less hostile than before, though a familiar wariness remained. "I don't play," I said. She entered the room, circling the board. "You have made yourself quite at home here." "Not by choice," I reminded her. Ah, yes. The convenient pretense. Her finger traced a marble knight. Except Enzo never does anything for only one reason. A wife who looks like Elena might fool Vescovi, but there is more to this. My pulse quickened. What do you mean? My brother has not allowed a woman to spend the night in this house since Elena died, she said, her eyes pinning me with a look so like her brother's it was unnerving. Not one. And now, you and your child are living in the East Wing with a new wardrobe and a personal assistant. For protection. He has fortified penthouses all over the city for protection, she cut in. He brought you here, to our family home. The implication was clear. I am suggesting, Olivia Quinn, that you be very careful. My brother does not form attachments, but when he does, she trailed off. He never lets go. A chill ran down my spine. Is that a threat? A warning, she corrected. Whatever game you think you are playing. I'm not playing a game, I interrupted, anger flaring. Your brother dragged my daughter and me into his world. I am just trying to survive until this is over. Something in her expression shifted. Your daughter, she sighed. He was going to be a father. Did he tell you that? I nodded. A daughter, Isabella continued, her voice softening. They had already named her Allegra. When he lost them both, something inside him shattered. The brother I knew was gone. I'm sorry, I said softly. So am I. Her focus returned to me. But for the first time in 6 years, I see glimpses of the old Enzo. When he looks at your child, when he speaks of you. Unease twisted inside me. I can't be a replacement for what he lost. No, she agreed, surprising me. And if that were all this was, I would have already had you removed. The threat was delivered so casually it took my breath away. But I suspect you are something else to him entirely. What? A second chance? The question is whether you are worthy of it. Before I could respond, her phone chimed. She checked it, and her face went rigid. I have to find my brother. He's in the city, I said, alarmed. Isabella's laugh was sharp. Is that what he told you? She started for the door, then paused. Stay inside. Keep your daughter close. What's happening? Is it Vescovi? Always, she said grimly. But this time, my idiot brother went to meet him alone. Vescovi requested it. Claimed he had information about you that Enzo would want to hear in private. Ice flooded my veins. Information about me? There's nothing to know. A look of something like pity crossed her face. Everyone has secrets, Olivia Quinn. With that, she was gone, leaving me with a suffocating sense of dread. What could Vescovi possibly know about me? My life was an open book of struggle and obscurity. Unless a memory I had buried deep surfaced. Maya's father hadn't just left. There was more to his story. A darkness I had never told anyone. Could Vescovi have unearthed that? I rushed to find Maya, needing the reassurance of her presence. She was in the playroom with Sophia, building a block tower. Mommy, look, I made Enzo's house. It's beautiful, sweetie, I said, forcing a smile. I pulled Sophia into the hall. Do you know what's happening? Sophia's composure slipped, revealing worry. Mr. Moretti left instructions for a full lockdown. No one in or out. You are safe here, ma'am. It wasn't reassuring. Hours crawled by. As evening fell with no word, my anxiety grew into a gnawing fear. After putting Maya to bed, I paced like a caged animal. The silence of the mansion was deafening. Against my better judgment, I found myself outside Enzo's study. The door was unlocked. I pushed it open. The room was masculine and elegant. One wall was a massive corkboard covered in photos, documents, and connecting threads of red string. In the center was a picture of me, taken months ago outside my apartment, and a school photo of Maya. He had been watching us long before the restaurant. Shaking, I backed away, bumping the desk and scattering papers. As I bent to pick them up, a name leaped out at me. Ryan Vance, Maya's father. My hands trembled as I scanned the documents. Police reports, financial records, a mugshot, and a paternity test dated 3 days ago, confirming Ryan as Maya's biological father. Enzo knew. Ryan hadn't just been a low-level dealer. He worked for Vescovi. Find something interesting? I whirled around. Isabella stood in the doorway. How long has he known? I demanded. Since yesterday, she said. One of our people recognized your photo, made the connection to Vance, and Enzo went to confront them alone. That's suicide. My brother is rarely impulsive, she said, though worry clouded her eyes. But where you are concerned, his judgment is compromised. We have to help him. You think I haven't tried? She shot back. He went dark. Intentionally. Her phone rang. She answered, her body stiffening. Where? Condition? Lock it down. We're on our way. She hung up, already moving. They found him. A clinic on the north side. He's alive. That's all I know. I was on my feet. I'm coming with you. Your daughter. We'll be safe with Sophia, I said firmly. I'm not asking Isabella. Something like respect flickered in her eyes. Perhaps I misjudged you, Olivia Quinn. The car leaves in 3 minutes. Don't be late. The drive was a silent, high-speed blur. The clinic's private entrance was guarded by Enzo's men. A doctor met us, speaking rapid-fire Italian to Isabella. When he finished, I asked, how bad? Broken ribs, a punctured lung, concussion, she translated, her voice tight. He was conscious when they found him. Can I see him? Isabella studied me. Why? What is he to you, really? This man you barely know? The question demanded an honesty I had been avoiding. He's someone who checked under my daughter's bed for monsters, I said, my voice breaking. Someone who remembers how I take my coffee, and he's hurt because of me. Her expression softened. Room 312. I will give you a few minutes. He lay in the dim room, his powerful frame diminished by the sterile surroundings. Dark bruises marred his face, and bandages wrapped his torso. His eyes fluttered open as I approached. Olivia, he whispered through a split lip.